When I was a teenager, one of my favorite things to do was to attend live concerts with my friends. Usually rock concerts, but also classical or jazz or anything that would let in underage kids. One concert that I attended still sits with me as one of the best that I've ever seen. I remember it like yesterday. My friends and I went to a small club, of course, that would let in kids in downtown St. Louis to see a band that we had heard about, but we didn't know much about it. But that night, the music captivated me. I felt a real connection to it. I felt like the singer was singing right to me, and at the same time, I felt one with the crowd, one with the emotions coming from the crowd. It was a transcendent experience. Perhaps you've had similar experiences with music, or maybe something similar while standing on a mountain. You feel alive, present in your individuality, and at the same time, one with all creation. You feel large and empowered, and at the same time, tiny compared with the all. Maybe you felt it in exercise or in miraculous events like the birth of a baby. These are times that we feel fully alive, times that give us energy, give us meaning and purpose. These are times that just overwhelm us. They seem to come out of nowhere. Take a few seconds and try to remember a time like this. But maybe you've never felt this, and that's okay. Now, try to picture yourself having an experience like this at shul, in the synagogue. For some of you, maybe this is easy, but I bet for many of us, it's not what we think about when we think about services at the synagogue. We call them worship services, prayer services, not transcendent spiritual experiences. But does it have to be that way? A story told by Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shlomi, otherwise known as Reb Zalman, about a Hasidic Rebbe, the Ruzhiner Rebbe, and a misnagid, an opposer of Hasidism. The misnagdim were known as being very punctilious in their following of the law, of the Jewish law. So the Rebbe and a misnagid are staying at the same inn. They have adjacent rooms. Both men rise at dawn. The misnagid dresses, davens, he prays, and spends almost 2 hours in the study of Torah. Then he wants to see what the Rebbe is doing. He peeks through the keyhole, and he sees the Ruzhiner pacing around in his nightshirt saying, "Oi, oi." At noon, they meet downstairs for lunch, and the misnagid says to the Rebbe, "By 9 o'clock this morning, I had davened, I prayed the whole morning service, and learned 3 blot Gemara, 3 pages of the Talmud. And I looked, and you were still walking around in your pajamas saying, 'Oi, oi, what's this oi, oi business?'" So the Ruzhiner says to him, "You were lucky. You can get up in the morning and say, 'Modeh ani lifanecha.'" This is the prayer that Jews say in the morning, thanking God for the first breaths of the day. So the Rebbe says, when I start saying Modeh ani, which means I give thanks, and then I look at the next word, lifanecha, before you, before God, I see how far apart they are. Oi, oi. Now, our Hasidic Rebbe was getting caught on one word, lifanecha. He couldn't get past what he felt was the audacity of lowly him being able to stand before the infinite God. Now, we also get tripped up in prayer for many reasons. Not necessarily the Rebbe's reason. Maybe it's because we don't understand the Hebrew. Maybe it's because we do understand the Hebrew, Or we look at the translation and then we decide we can't say what these words say. We don't literally believe them, the words, or perhaps in God. Perhaps it's because we feel that we don't know enough. The tunes, when to bow, the difference between Mincha and Mariv, or between Shmini Atzeret and Tzom Gedalia. Maybe we don't want to be around other people. Or maybe the times at shul are not convenient. We can probably list many other reasons that we don't usually feel those transcendent feelings at prayer. But maybe we could. Not all the times, but sometimes. First, let me explain what I mean when I say prayer. So many of the ideas in this sermon come from a remarkable book I recently read by Reb Zalman Schachter Shlomi called Davening, A Guide to Meaningful Jewish Prayer. Here are his words. True prayer is a bursting forth of the soul to God. What can be more natural and more human than turning to God's listening presence with our thanks and our burdens? Prayer is one of the simplest and easiest practices. It's always right there. The act of speaking directly to God, of opening our hearts to God's response, is one of the ultimate mystical experiences. Like great art and great music, prayer brings out the poetry of the soul. Some of our most beautiful writings can be found in the pages of prayer. So there you go. Prayer is the bursting forth of your soul to God, using language, melody, emotion to connect and enhance a relationship with God. Notice that Reb Zalman or I didn't say that prayer is a collection of statements or poems or beliefs in a book. The Siddur, the prayer book, is a tool to help you pray. Yes, Jewish tradition has specific words that you're supposed to pray at specific times of day and at specific seasons of the year, but prayer is what you do with those words. Your intention, your kavanah in Hebrew. You need both. I don't think you could have intention without some kind of framework. And the framework without the intention is just going through the motions. But sometimes going through the motions can help you practice so that next time you will have more intention. Let's take yoga, for example. I'm sure many of us practice yoga. And I find that yoga teachers often say something like this at the beginning of class. Let us set our intention for today's practice. Yoga has specific poses, like the specific words of prayers. Sometimes you go to a yoga class and you do all of the poses, and yet you feel a little off balance, or your muscles are sore, and at the end of the class you feel like you didn't get much out of it, or you feel more sore, but you stick to it. You practice, because maybe one time you felt great doing it, and you want to have that feeling again, or you hear other people have that feeling, and you want to have that feeling, and you think that you might be able to with practice. The same is true for prayer. Do you think that people who do a lot of prayer have a spiritual high every time? But you have a better chance if you do it more often. So let's go back to Reb Zalman's definition of prayer. Prayer is a bursting forth of the soul to God. I made it sound like that's a simple statement. But what if you don't believe? Can you still pray? I've heard it say that Schachter Shlomi would say to people who said that they didn't believe in God, he would say this, I probably also don't believe in the God you don't believe in. So what is he talking about when he says God? For Schachter Shlomi, God is the oneness of all being, the oneness of all creation, of the cosmos, not an old man in the sky. But he writes, who am I praying to? I am praying to God, however I understand and experience that word right here and right now. I may not be praying to God that is all with a capital A, but simply sharing my sorrows, my troubles with the face of God with which I am most intimate. Perhaps I am praying to whatever it is that listens in the universe. I don't need to do any more than that. Who am I to ask for anything? I am a creation and manifestation of godliness. I am a wave in the ocean and a world unto myself. The infinite potential for creativity and love in the universe manifests in me and through me, as it does in every other creature. He writes further, who, where is your thou, the one you address? One way to know when you found your thou is that you will feel a listening and understanding presence when you open yourself to talk to God and to be seen by God. My hope, my prayer is that over time you will speak more easily and naturally to that presence. Where in this many-layered universe does compassion reside? Who is the you of God for you? I think that every human has a need to express themselves, to be heard, to concentrate on meaning, to let out our emotion. This is prayer. Jews just have some specific ways to pray. So let's talk about ways within the Jewish framework to help us deepen our experiences of prayer. Singing is one of those ways. As I shown in my opening anecdote, music has a power to move us. Getting lost in a melody that you are singing, sometimes it doesn't matter what the words mean. When everyone else is singing around you, all the better. Some of us might be embarrassed to sing out loud and let their passion out, and that's okay. Sometimes you get into it by being next to someone who's into it. Sometimes powerful moments come from listening. A great cantor has been known to move people to tears. A second way to deepen our prayer experience is meditation. Now, I don't have the time to give a whole talk about meditation, but if you are interested, I'll put in a plug. Evening of Kol Nidre, 6 o'clock service, we will be having a meditation service. I would like, though, to offer some techniques that Reb Zalman teaches. One is letting words or phrases from the liturgy, from our prayers, pop out at you. And then you can concentrate on them. I give you permission. You don't have to finish all of the prayers. If the community moves on and you're stuck on a word, stay stuck on that word. If there are words that draw your attention, like Shema, Echad, Ahava Rabbah, eternal love. What's eternal love? Stay with them. Stay with that intention. Here is an example that Reb Zalman uses with Adon Olam. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Master of the universe who reigned before any creature was created. V'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora. And afterward, when all is done, alone shall reign the awesome one. Zalman says, what will we say today? From before the Big Bang and beyond the last black hole, your presence fills creation. Opening yourself to these thoughts is such a mind stretcher. You can go beyond time. You can catch a glimpse of what it's like to see you with divine eyes from the place of God's timeless now. So I say, please feel free to use your imagination. Our prayers are written with mythic language. By myth, I don't mean a fairy tale or opposed to facts, the opposite of facts. I mean, our prayers are poetic. They use metaphor. They use figurative language. They're not factual statements. Let your mind wander to whatever meaning pops up. Scholar of prayer and liturgy, Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman recently said in an interview about the High Holy Day prayers, "Nothing grand and glorious comes without imagination. Love, loyalty, honor, character, these must all be imagined before they can be believed. That's what great art or poetry does. And prayer, too. They instill imagination." Another way to meditate is to concentrate after the service or a private prayer on what you experienced. Reb Zalman asks these questions: where did I go today? What did I touch? What do I want to stay with me? What can I make up my mind to do? What is going to give me trouble? Music, meditation, speaking, silence, movement, these are all parts of Jewish prayer that can hopefully touch our whole selves. And finally, my friends, let's touch on a question that might be on the tips of many of your tongues. Why pray at all? What's the point? If I could get great feelings from music or skiing or whatever, why do you need to pray? So I turned to our beloved teacher, Rabbi Gunther Plaut, who said in a Yom Kippur morning sermon in 1976, a sermon he titled My Prayer, "Here is my credo of prayer. I pray because I believe in God and I believe in the opportunity God affords me to open my heart to Him. In prayer, my heart is enlarged and my vision sharpened. From prayer, I emerge a better person. Perhaps that in itself is the answer I receive. I pray because that God needs me to help Him make the world a better place. I pray for others because my prayers may touch their lives in ways I do not know. Perhaps their illnesses are healed because I pray. I pray because I need to be alone, and I pray because I need to be with others. I pray for prayer's sake and for my own. I pray, last but not least, because I am a Jew, and as a Jew, I need to stand in the presence of God. On this day, something happens not only to me, something happens to the Jewish people. And when something happens to our people, something happens to the world. Because Jews stand in prayer today in their synagogues, the world is a better place. I pray, though prayer is a mystery, and though I do not know the answers, I know the road, I know the direction. I see the light, and toward the light I strive with all my might and main, leaving the ultimate answer to God, but saying, "Here I am." I think prayer is a human need. We need to explore our inner selves. We need to express our needs and wants and cares and frustrations. We need to get together in community. We need solitude. Jewish prayer is a vehicle to express these needs. We can't always expect to achieve the feeling of spiritual transcendence, but if we practice, if we sing out, if we use your imagination, sometimes we can get glimpses. Shana Tova.